Well, good evening and welcome. I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening, this Sunday evening in the UK, in the diaspora. Today, the 2nd of the 6th, the second day of June. We're halfway in the year. And I want to thank those who are joining me on YouTube, those who are joining me on Facebook. Of course, I've got those on Instagram as well. For those on Instagram, I must say that you'll see everything as this is, as what is being seen, but unfortunately, it won't be recorded or stayed there after. So you have to go onto the YouTube channel to watch the replay, but you only can see it live. And for those on TikTok, you only can see my face only, but not just see my face only, you can see my guests as well. You can come over onto the YouTube channel where you can actually see that. So I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. I try to use these Sunday evenings as one which is more of informative and educational discussions, one which moves away from the sensationalism, one which moves away from, what should I say, the breaking news factor, and really look at the beyond the breaking news and really dig into issues. I want to make it the Sunday evenings something which is more of an educational level. And one of the big topics which is happening in Jamaica at present is the whole thing about the constitutional reform. The constitutional reform is a big thing with the CRC recommendation, which has been put to government. A lot of things happening with the talk about, what should I say, the dual citizenship, But I just wanted to talk about this bit here. And it says, dual citizens often find themselves straddling two worlds, bringing unique perspective and strengths from both. Their experiences and insight can enrich the fabric of the societies. They belong to fostering cross-cultural understanding and cooperation. Moreover, dual citizens can facilitate global mobility, enabling individuals to contribute economically and socially in multiple contexts. This is something which I mentioned last night as well on my show, Talk and Sip. And when we talk about patriotism now, because there's this issue about how patriotic are persons who have dual citizenship. How patriotic are they? Do they have more allegiance to another? Patriotism, as they say, is not a zero-sum game. It is possible to love and to be loyal to more than one country. Actually, I was just speaking to a gentleman earlier today from South Africa, and I said, did you vote in the South African, it's my neighbor actually, have you voted in the South African elections? And he said, they didn't get to register, but he was able to vote. And then he said also to vote in Ghana as well. So therefore, the whole essence of the global world is evolving, and Jamaica's got to actually move up with that. The true measure of patriotism lies not in the exclusivity of one's citizenship, but in their actions, contributions, and the values they uphold in globalized world where borders are increasingly fluid and interconnected. This is the norm. The traditional notions of loyalty and identity are evolving. So therefore, instead of questioning the patriotism of dual citizens, we should embrace the diverse allegiances that dual citizen represents. By doing so, we can harness the potential of individuals who embody and contribute to a more inclusive, interconnected world. And with the whole aspect of constitutional reform, we've got to get the people and what civil society is actually saying. Now, for tonight, I'm going to be joined by Ms. Danielle S. Archer, attorney at law and principal director for National Integrity Action, where we'll spend a few minutes and just dig down a bit into this whole aspect of constitutional reform and dual citizens. Good afternoon, Danielle. How are you doing?
Hi, good evening to you. I'm well, thanks. Blessings to you and to your listeners.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I must say that today in the UK, we have some really nice sun, some really good sun, I'm trying to say.
You feel like you're thinking that you're back in Ochi? Oh, I'm sorry, you're dual national. You've switched allegiances, huh?
Well, as you can see, I've got my Jamaica badge here, and I've got my British badge here, and of course, I am, for the record, a dual citizen. Daniel, I am a dual citizen.
So it's a good place to start.
It's a good place to start.
I'm happy you said that, because one of the things that I have been struggling with is whether or not, when we have these conversations, do we indirectly make our dual nationals feel less than citizens of Jamaica? I say that in the context that many of our dual nationals, majority of Jamaicans, you do have a majority, more Jamaicans outside of Jamaica than actually live on the rock.
Yes.
But they haven't lost their patriotism, they haven't lost their loyalty.
Yes.
And they have left for a myriad of reasons. Economically, everybody looks for an opportunity to make things better or to do things differently, to be able to survive, because economically we're not doing so well that our schools and our hospitals provide the kind of treatment that people want to stay. So people leave. When they leave and they are successful, we give overtures to them and we say, come back, come and invest with us.
Yeah.
But are they good enough only for their money? Do we have a transactional relationship with them and they serve only a purpose of providing us with an income? What role should they play in governance? I am from Manchester. I cannot deny the sensibilities of the returning residents who are part and parcel of what makes Manchester Manchester.
Yes.
In those circumstances, sorry, trying to plug my laptop in.
That's okay.
Guys, just give me a second. In those circumstances, are they any less Jamaican than somebody who's born here? The United States says through their constitution that you have to be born to become president. Nothing else is limited. Remember, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes. Governor, yes.
Right. He's a governor. He's part of the legislative framework. He's risen to the top of the state, but he's a dual national. What we find and where we find ourselves, which is why we have this conversation choppy. It's choppy because we're talking about constitutional reform in phases. Is that we don't appreciate that we are crafting a constitution in 2024 that will take us into the next millennium. We are concerned about following precedents which occurred 30, 20, 60 years ago.
Yes.
We are not absorbing the reality that a new constitution ought not to be based on what obtained in the past, but ought to be futuristic, whilst being realistic and whilst being a living document that anticipates the global changes that have occurred. And I like to use this example, Sil.
Yes.
When we went to the Winter Olympics, you remember when the bobsled team reached out up foreign?
Yes.
On the coldest day in Manchester, do we have snow that you can find one sled? But we did it our way. We practiced. If you watch the Cool Runnings movie and you listen to the stories, they practiced on the grass.
Yes.
They created their own way of training. It's the very same thing when you think about the genre of music that Jamaica owns. We own our own brand of music. And if I'm going further, I'd remind you that we have our own religion, Rastafari. The wearing of the dreadlocks has now become a popular thing among everybody, whether you embrace the religion of the Rastaman or not. We have our unique way of doing things. And I think if we allow people to participate, we can craft a constitution that is one that takes into concern our interests, our concerns, the divergent views, the ethnic, cultural, and economic diversity that exists, whilst maintaining a recognition that unlike many nation states, we have a capacity to bring onto the table dual nationals.
Yes.
And I want to make that distinction because we were having this conversation off air. In our experience, let's make a distinction between dual nationals and Commonwealth citizens.
Yes.
Our constitution would not recognize an American as someone entitled to be part of our governance structure. Do you know why?
Why is that now?
Context. If you think about when we got independence, we were given independence by virtue of an order in council. In other words, it was Britain who gave us permission on condition that the monarchy remained, on condition that we were going to be following their system of governance, on condition that we're going to still have the Privy Council. In other words, Britain was ensuring that we remained a part of the Commonwealth, which was British, that we kept the empire alive. The United States, in its republican nature through and through, disposed of the monarchy on the very first opportunity that they had.
Mm.
You wouldn't want a foreign power to be able to rule in your empire, would you?
Yeah, I want to stop you right there because you touch on a few things there. You touch on the bit about the Constitution, about the dual city and the Commonwealth, and you also touch on foreign power. Let's go to section 39 of the Constitution, and this is a key area about qualifications for membership of Senate and House of Representatives.
Right.
And it says, subject to the provision of Section 40 of the Constitution, any person who at the date of the appointment or nomination for election is a Commonwealth citizen of the age of 21 years upwards, has been ordinary resident in Jamaica for the immediately preceding 12 months, shall be qualified to be appointed as a senator or elected as a member of the House of Representatives, and no other person shall be disqualified. Now, why bring that up right there? Because I've seen in the news that there's some level of confusion as to where you have MPs who are legally entitled to sit in the House and are now being questioned and as to their legal right, and where one actually is in the process of renouncing his British citizenship. Is this sending a sort of mixed messages going against the Constitution to the people of Jamaica?
Well, I think the character in the Gleaner was very helpful today. It did
Okay.
have one minister indicating that he was he was in the process of renouncing his British citizenship and would suggest that Marky G does the same thing.
Yes.
But beside Marky G was a character of the Prime Minister indicating that it was morally untenable. I think I should be able to find it here.
Yeah.
I think that is perhaps, it's really that, I think that tells us clearly that it's politically motivated. The genesis of it is to ensure that you are in a position to maximize your political strength in these circumstances. We're heading into an election period.
Yes.
So it's only fair that you're going to be able to take the pot shots when you can take the pot shots. And I think that the message that is being sent in a manner that draws upon party lines. I'm not sure if you can see. I'm going to send it to you. If I could forward it to you.
Yeah, and
you can put it up.
I can put it up. Yeah.
But I think it does form a basis for us to say that it's on political lines, because the Constitution is very clear.
Yes.
That once you're a Commonwealth citizen, and that's why I was trying to say earlier,
yes,
context is important. Commonwealth citizens are part of the empire. You remember, I don't know if you did history, but one of the fundamental things you learned in history was the sun never sets on the British Empire. And the Commonwealth was a way to do that in the changing geopolitical landscape, wherein you are now having colonies who are now seeking to become independent. And one of the ways to ensure that you got permission or you got the assent of the monarchy was to say to them, the Commonwealth still has jurisdiction, the monarchy will still be recognized, and this is how we're going to be doing it. And it is in that context that you had Section 39. So while the argument politically is it's legally permissible but morally untenable, that's where we go now. So we're using morals now to go circumvent is the word, to circumvent the Constitution.
Yes.
Because we have taken on the sexy topic of saying we're moving away from the king. I say we've taken on the sexy topic because we want to maintain relevance in the global world.
Yes.
We're pushed into the limelight by having Barbados in very short order move into republicanism. Granted, their move to republicanism, when you look at the Constitution and the manner in which things are being done, is not significant. It's no different to my mind than what Trinidad did. And so it's not a significant republic. That's not true republicanism. True republicanism is where you have a change in the structure of the government from what was to something that maximizes the participation of the people. That's what true republicanism is. When you look at what is happening in Guyana, you see a kind of republic, but it's not the ideal republic.
Yes.
So why I put that before you is that we currently have a constitution that allows Commonwealth people to sit because of the context, where the constitution and when the constitution originated. In fact, in 1944, when we got our first constitution that facilitated internal governance, it would have been tried. Meaning it would have been the only thing that you could conceive of was that Britain would not be allowing an American to sit on internal government. It would have been their governors, people who were planters, people who were recognized by the British aristocracy, who were identified by the British aristocracy as being part of the planter class. And so they would form a part of the internal government. In fact, at that time, you had to be able to pay a certain amount in taxes and owe a particular amount in property. Thereafter, we moved to a constitution which was taking us into self-governance. We eventually ended up with the 1962 constitution. On that constitution board, you'd have recognized that we had a young senator represented or selected rather by Sir Alexander Bustamante in the form of Mr. Edward Seago. He was our longest serving constitutional reform member at the time he passed. At the time he passed, he was the only living member of the Constitutional Committee. So he was quite au fait with the fact that British would not have tolerated an American or anyone else outside of the Commonwealth sitting in governance of Jamaica at the time. So where we are here is if you look at section 40.
Yes, exactly. I was going to go to the section 42. Is that where you're going to section 42? No person shall be qualified. Yes.
Right. So look at section 40. Yes. And you will see that prior to getting to section 40, it actually told section 39 says subject to section 40.
Yes.
Right? Which means, therefore, that it is permissible. What it is asking for is that once you're a member of the Commonwealth and you're above the age of 21 and you have been in Jamaica, so it forms a condition. So if you're a member of the Commonwealth and you're 21 years old and over, and you have been living in Jamaica for 12 months before you were nominated, you can operate as a senator or as a member of the House of Representatives. There is nothing that disqualifies you from being so. And I put that before you.
Yeah.
Because section 40 actually sets out who can be disqualified as a member of the Senate or the House of Representatives.
Okay. The issue here is the bit that says section 40 section 42, 40, subsection 2. No person shall be qualified to be appointed as a senator or elected as a member of the House of Representatives who is by virtue of his own act under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power. Now we're coming back into this foreign power bit now, where many people are actually saying, Mark Golin, and these persons have sworn allegiance to a foreign power, even though they are members of the Commonwealth. Yes.
Which is what I was trying to explain to you, Syl. In the context of how, so let's look at the context.
Yes.
In the context of the Commonwealth, when you look at the first page of our Constitution, which said it's an order in council that has the monarchy as the head of state. It's the king who is the head of state. When we open court in Jamaica, we say, God bless the king, or God save the king. Sorry, we say, God save the king. Yes? When we close court, we all adjourn and we say, God save the king. And that is because the king continues to be head of state.
Yes.
The king does not see any Commonwealth territory as a foreign power within the context of how this constitution was drafted. A foreign power is deemed to be anybody outside of the Commonwealth. So if you're outside of the Commonwealth, and if you want to be sure of what I'm saying, you can go and look at our immigration laws.
Yes.
Commonwealth citizens are deemed differently and treated differently from foreign powers. So in the context of the Constitution, any nation state that is outside of the Commonwealth is deemed a foreign power. If you are never ruled by British and never had the king or the Queen as it was then, as being head of your state, you were deemed to be a foreign power. And I
Right.
think in the context of the Constitution, because it made that exception, so you, as a lawyer, you go up to the top now and you see the line that says subject to,
Yes.
which means that this is permissible, is legally permissible, but only for the Commonwealth citizen and not anyone else.
Mm.
And when you put that into context now, Mr. Mushet, you want to tick off the things that would make the king the head of our state. We still have the Privy Council. We still have the Governor General representing the Queen. We still have an active participatory role, as we call it, in the Commonwealth in terms of how we view British. We do have an order in council. We've never done anything that says, we go to the Privy Council, in fact. We go to the Privy Council. There's never been this active move to take us out of the Privy Council as it was in Guyana.
Yes.
So what you find is that the acts that we have done, very different to what Australia did, the acts that we have done, our immigration laws, the advantage that we give to Commonwealth nationals indicates that we have recognized that we are actively a part of the Commonwealth. And so we don't view a Commonwealth territory as being a foreign state. You would appreciate that is in that context that you have to read the Constitution.
This argument, of course, the Prime Minister, I was listening to him on one of these talk shows in Jamaica, where he said the ultimate leader need to have one allegiance, and right there it was across the board. It was a sweeping statement there. He never sort of identified America, because I believe when I was doing my research and I saw that you were involved in 2007 with the Vaz case and Abe Dabdoub case, whereby they were they had to renounce their U.S. citizenship because that is what it was. That is a foreign power, and that was very clear.
But I think one of the things that was very significant in that matter, in which I appeared on behalf of the government at the time, being a young attorney in the office of the Attorney General, was the repeated acts of the allegiance. The evidence was that the member of parliament at the time had, of his own act, taken an oath to the United States of America. Of his own act, he had utilized the passport on several occasions. And the culmination of taking the oath and actively seeking to be part of that community, wherein the legislation, the Constitution itself, excluded Americans by virtue of how it is written. If you're not a Commonwealth citizen, you're a foreign power. That's really the interpretation.
So really, sorry, go ahead.
That is what made the distinction.
So really, truly, whether or not he acted, or by default mean to say that, say for instance, he was born in America, for argument's sake, and by virtue of such, all he had to do was to renew his passport. That is still an act, but still it doesn't make a difference because it's a foreign power, isn't it?
Well, I think that would be, for argument's sake. So he was born there. If you remember, I think one of the better examples that we have, if you're really into leadership, would have been Mr. Sydial.
Yes.
He was part of the Constitutional Committee at the time, and he was actually born in Boston. And he took steps upon, when we were becoming independent, to renounce his citizenship. Now, the argument would be that that would have been for a foreign power. When you think about how Jamaica's civil service had been operating in the 1960s and the 1970s, many persons came from Britain. Many persons were trained in Britain. I dare you to also consider that up until the 2000s, I had the benefit of going to the UK for an internship. And I don't recall needing to apply for a visa. Rather, I needed a work permit. And I believe sometime after, I'm giving you my age now, the law was changed to say Jamaicans required a visa. So even the mere fact that up until quite recently, Jamaicans were able to travel to Britain just by virtue of being part of the British Empire meant, therefore, that you were not deemed a foreign power And so being an American and taking the oath of allegiance and traveling on the passport on numerous occasions would be very different from being born in Britain. Being born in the US, if you were
Yes.
born in the US and you never actively sought to participate in the governance, and arguably having gotten the passport and not using it as many times, particularly I would think in your adult years, particularly leading up to being part of governance, would be something that the court would consider. But I want to address your point about the ultimate
Yes.
leader. The challenge we're going to have, Sil, I think you need to wait a bit, because we have, our parliament isn't constituted of only one leader. There's really one prime minister, but we
Yes.
do have leadership in different sectors or segments of the government. You have
Yes.
senators who are leaders, and you have members of parliament who are leaders in their own right. I think you need to wait until the dust is cleared, because you may very well find that there are persons who are also dual nationals for other Commonwealth areas, such as Canada. If that
Yes.
is correct, then you're going to have to ask yourself, are they the ultimate leader, those who are being chosen to lead us are expected to be ultimate leaders? And so would you then question their allegiance? And I just want to throw something at you just because I can.
Yes.
Would ultimate leaders also be required to ensure that they don't have a green card? Because a green card means that you're a permanent resident elsewhere. And this is the context of a conversation where many
Yes.
persons are saying members of parliament should be permanently resident in their constituencies. Can they be
Yes.
permanently resident in their constituencies by alleging that they're permanently residing outside the jurisdiction in another state? That's one.
Yes.
Two, when we talk in this context, in the global environment of being in a position for leadership or allegiance, you will agree with me that there are many nations which will give you citizenship by investments, where you do so on the purpose because you have the investments available to be able to become a citizen. Should we then be looking at investments and where it is that you even perhaps do your education to determine your allegiance?
Yeah.
Put all of that on the table to highlight that given the global environment, Jamaica is required in 2024 to craft a law that takes into consideration these nuances to ensure that when we talk about allegiance, we don't assume that allegiance comes only by word of mouth, but you must also be looking at the actions of individuals to determine whether or not they are loyal and would put Jamaica first.
Can I just say this as well? When I listened to even the whole issue with Vaz in the past, and the whole Stern and that bit in 2007, and even today with all the different names which has been came up, one hasn't seen any display of unpatriotism or any form of disloyalty to Jamaica.
That is correct.
You know, and I'm talking even with the Vaz issue there. I've not seen anything like that. And so the big question is again, what says that someone with a dual citizen is less loyal than someone who is just have a Jamaican passport or so, whereby they could be doing like investments or putting their money overseas.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And you know what's the beauty about asking such a question and having this discussion? A lot of the things that we talk about are not new or novel.
Yes.
At the end of the dual citizenship debacle, I think, if I got the word right. Perhaps
Yes.
I hear my mom correcting me on that pronunciation in my head. Just about no, talk about rote. At the end of that situation, the Capri actually did a study on the impact of dual nationalism. Can I send that to you?
Yes, I actually saw it. I saw it the other day, but please refresh and send it to me. Yes,
right.
Yes.
So Capri actually did this particular work, and coming out of what they had shared, it did note that there was no evidence that being a dual national, that's my summation, being a dual national resulted, or there was any evidence of disloyalty or
Yes.
anything that would say that it's a negative impact. In
Mm.
fact, they went on to highlight that given the high tendency of Jamaicans to migrate for
Yes.
work or other activities, that it would be something that we would need to consider when we
Mm.
are looking at our own legislation to see how best we could include it. I can send that study to you. It's a remarkable study because it confirms exactly what many persons are saying. Does this really mean? Is it a
Yes.
true test? Is it an accurate measurement of loyalty? And I'm excited that you actually made the point. The
Mm.
truth is that one cannot reasonably say that Mr. Vaz or any of the other persons who were taken to court during that period, and there were others before then, that they
Yes.
were ever in a position to say that there was evidence of disloyalty or that they were unpatriotic
Patriotic.
to Jamaica.
Yes.
What it
Yes.
was and what it is and what it continues to be is a political opportunity.
Yes.
Because remember, you are looking for an opportunity to win a seat or to take power. At the time, it was
Mm.
manifestly obvious that you needed, particularly in the case of Mr. Dabdu, who had brought the suit, to say,
You wanted
look, I'm
and the
not
seat over
supposed
to
to
me.
be here. I want the seat. I'm
Yes.
entitled to the seat because I am a Jamaican. And this is a legal point. As an attorney, this is what you'd refer to as a technical point, because
Mm.
you know that you can't go around this issue and this issue would give you a goal. So you take the point because that is what the Westminster system facilitates. The
Yes.
Westminster system encourages you taking all points to maximize power. That's
And
what it was
and
about.
yeah. And therefore, if you can just explain what actually happened there, because if I'm a misunderstanding, you can actually clarify, is that Mr. Abdub, the seat wasn't handed to him. Baz renounced his bid, and they went for a by-election, and Baz won, isn't it?
Correct. Correct.
But but
And
but,
he would
but
win.
yeah, yeah,
If you look at the trajectory of that seat and how it is that he operates in that particular area, you transpose yourself to what happens now and you recognize that he has, to use the word, consolidated
yes,
the support in that particular community. It was trite. You no longer win politics on mere technical points, which is why you will find that we have had several sessions of recounts of ballots after an election, because the purpose, and it happens not just in Jamaica, it happens in Kenya, it happens in Australia, it happens where you are, where the politicians are aggrieved and they feel that we have a constitutional or a technical right to take a seat. And in
yes,
fact, I think the situation in Australia, the judge had ruled that the people's voice must be adhered to. And so the seat, there was a particular election. I think it's the case that everyone talks about now on dual
mm,
nationality coming out of Australia, where the court said, well, we're not just giving it to the other side, but the people's voice must be noted. They did in fact vote for this particular party, and so the seat must be given to somebody from this particular party. I say that to say, Sil, that
mm,
if we don't ensure that we properly craft our constitution to take into consideration how such aspects can be used for political opportunities, then we are going to be using other things to try to keep our people from being good leaders or people who have value. We're living in an age where the salaries of our parliamentarians were increased by over 200%. If I am still awake, I do verily believe that one of the arguments was you're able to attract the brightest and the
the
best.
brightest, yes.
The
And now we can
reality
work.
is,
And now we can really work.
no, we can really work, just like the private sector. And the private sector takes the brightest and the best many times from out of Jamaica. Out of the soil of Jamaica, they may be Jamaicans who have lived abroad, who have worked abroad, but they are attracted or they are sought after, headhunted by local companies because they are what? The brightest and the best. If
Mm,
we are looking at governance in Jamaica as a place where we can adopt private sector morals and the private sector approach to ensuring that there is productivity, efficiency, and achieve a certain level of, should I say, profitability,
Yes.
then it follows that we're going to be having a conversation of how to ensure that we attract the brightest and the best, which
Mm.
means possibly not limiting it to just Jamaicans, not just to Caribbean nationals. If you look at the CRC report, it
Yes.
mentions CARICOM. No, is that because we have a policy with CARICOM for free movement? Is that because we are recognizing CARICOM? And if we
Yeah.
do that, how different is it from taking persons from the Commonwealth? If you're
So
going to limit it to
yeah.
CARICOM, are you discriminating against those who live in
Yeah.
Canada and the United States?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they too, as Jamaicans, have a right to be part of governance? And
Yeah.
these are issues which respectfully should be put to the people, just as they did in Kenya through
Yes.
constituency reform meetings.
You know, we're near to the end. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this very informative discussion with Danielle S. Archer, Principal Director of National Integrated Action, and myself, Sylbourne Sydial. Thank you for those on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Danielle, on the perfect person or the guy on the Clapham bus stop. What is the message then you believe Jamaica is sending to the diaspora, to Jamaicans at this time? Because
Boy,
I'm picking up something here that there's no clarity and there's no clear leadership in this area except for political expediency.
you see where you there, and you see where me there. You know they
Yes.
are okay, right? You're there foreign. So
Yes.
when I'm fling their stone, they not catch you. They might go catch me,
Right.
right?
Right.
But that's a matter fairly for our diaspora members. If I
Mm,
say to you as an individual, I want you to support me, and I
yes.
make myself attractive, and I say, invest with me. Come and you earn your monies, come and buy property here, come and invest in our companies and support our health services and or educational services. And I turn around and say to you, look here, you don't live here, so you don't have no right to tell us what to do.
Mm,
Um, the nature of the transactional relationship
mm,
may have some concerns.
mm,
We are not the same as many nations. We
mm.
can put into we can put in conditions. We can put in conditions such as payments of property taxes, evidence of living in Jamaica for 12 months. If you're a
Yes.
dual national, we don't have to close you. We don't have to do the red line like many other states because we
Yes.
do have many persons outside. And so you want the brightest and you want the best. And to be fair, if I can take your money and I can tell you to invest, shouldn't you, as an investor, want a say as a Jamaican investor? You're not just a regular investor, You get
Mm,
special things that non-Jamaicans get.
mm.
And what message are we sending to Jamaicans completely? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to create an environment where Jamaicans, home and abroad, feel the spirit of being Jamaican and give and added something different. And it's an opportune time to craft a constitution that takes into the consideration these nuances.
You're so right. It's an opportune time because even with the recommendation which is going through, I was I was amazed, and we spoke about it earlier, and we can bring it up now. I was amazed that some of it has been tabled, and also some bits of it is going through, and I'm saying, hang on a second, this doesn't sound right because it is like the people have not been fully engaged. I said it to one of our colleagues the other day to say, have the people lost the initiative in this? And the person, Sylbourne, the people never had the initiative in the first place.
Mhm.
It
That is
was
correct. The CRC wasn't part of the people. The CRC was picked by the government. I mean, if you wish, you can pick up the cleaner today and you can scan the QR code and get a 90-page document that tells you what the report is. But
yeah,
when campaigns are being run, we have the TikTok version, the Instagram version, the Snapchat version, every version possible on social media, not to mention the jingles, the signs, the posters,
on
every
top of it,
material that you
yeah,
can get that
yeah,
communicates to every different group. I'm almost sure the taxi man is not going to pick up a gleaner, scan it, and read 90 pages. The only people who
Mm.
will perhaps read the 90 pages is perhaps the lawyer who is going to read through the jargon and underline it. And not all lawyers are going to do that.
Well,
So
the key
who are
word
you?
from
Are you
yeah,
are you
yeah,
communicating? I believe it's published, so it can't be said that you have not published it. But at the
yes.
same time, being marketeers and extraordinary public relations enthusiasts, one would have felt and it would reasonably feel that you should have been doing something to communicate every aspect of this information. And I will
Yeah.
continue to say this is something for the constituency persons, the members of parliament to have meetings on, and they
Mm.
have not done so. And it does not reflect the diversity, the economic diversity, the ethical challenges, the political challenges, the concerns, or the interests of the people of Jamaica, and is once more, just like it was in the past, with dual nationality and technical points, an opportunity for the government and the opposition to take and score political points. It's never
But
about the people, and
yes,
the people
yes,
themselves must now find out how they're going to do it. Civil society is not Daniel Archer alone, Mr. Still. It's not
yes,
JFJ. It's not JAM. Civil society is the Optimist Club, the Kiwanis Club. It's the
yes,
JTA. It's the civic, the trade unions. Trade unions have been
yes.
reasonably quiet in all of this. The history of
Wow,
Jamaica says that our trade unions have led from the forefront. On this occasion, I'm not even hearing a quick.
wow.
In reality, it is the people who have to start clamoring for more. And if they
Right.
don't clamor for more, parliamentarians will continue to say, well, I've shared it with you and this is what we're going to be doing. But we
Mm,
have the power. We've done it with the festival song. We have done
mm.
it before when they wanted to keep information for 70 years. And there are other examples where they have been a rollback. They tried to do it when we had the House Speaker. The
Mm.
people need to ask for more.
Well, what Chris Malcolm, last week, my guest on the show, Deputy Dean of University of West Indies, what he said was, the laws, that cathedralization of this whole aspect, instead of, they say ignorance of the law is no excuse, but actually you're not actually trying to engage people to understand some
Correct.
basic semantics of the
Correct.
whole thing. and
Correct.
and and you're so right. So therefore, uh, Dinobot, our good friend in the UK here with our case, and I did a video, and I use a song from Public Enemy #1 that says "Fight the Power," and seems like right now that song is so opportune with Jamaica about fight the powers that be. Therefore, it
Mhm.
seems to me now that the people, as you rightly say, and I'm of course I'm guilty, because I always say to you guys, what is civil society saying? And you're breaking down, say, hey, civil society is not just three of us or three of civil society is up
All
to
the
you,
way,
all of
all the
everybody.
way,
So you're
everybody.
Jamaicans, hear that? It is everyone. And the diaspora as well plays a fundamental role in
And the
this one.
diaspora is very critical. If you have a voice to say what is happening in terms of being part of this reform, look, this reform
Mm,
touches another generation. None of we will
mm,
be affected by it. We're going to deadlift it.
mm,
That's the truth. We are crafting a Jamaica for tomorrow and the vision that we should have. We don't even have a vision of what are the people's desires and their aims. We need to have a vision of how we see Jamaica in 2020, 60. And when we craft the Constitution is supposed to mobilize us, inspire us, and set us on a path that defines the next generation of Jamaicans. At this particular pace, with this
mm.
particular process, it's not inspiring. It doesn't give us a
Yeah.
desire to set a next generation and have them catch a fire to be Jamaicans. And the diaspora is
Mm,
critical to this. It shouldn't just be about your
yeah.
money or the incentives. If you want to be part of Jamaica, let your voices be heard, create the avenues like you're doing, utilize social media, and the people in Jamaica need to
Mm.
perhaps really and truly start asking for more.
Yes, yes, yes. That is so really powerful, Daniel, and I really want to thank you so much for coming on today. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to keep the shows very tight, in so therefore these are can be used as educational tools. I think we've said a lot, Daniel, at the same time for people to leave and to go away with, especially the people. And I want to say this though, if the last election was 27% or so turnout, or 20% turnout. And the election before was 37%, which is 708,000, because I did the figures. Then if you have a constitution reform and it goes to a referendum, and you're going to have the same trend, what is that saying?
And the government will feel that they have a
Mm.
majority simply because they won. And in the same way that a member of parliament can tell you they're not concerned about the people who didn't vote, they will not consider the people who didn't vote simply
Mm.
because you never vote. That's the whole point. So the rest of
Yes,
it, you take the taxes, you take the monies, you take the incentives, but just because you didn't vote means that you don't have a say. That can't be right. We
yes,
must ask for change in the structure that gives us a greater right. We must ask for a constitution that have recall and impeachment. We must have a
yes,
constitution
yes,
that takes into consideration the people's view. In
yes,
2024, you don't dictate to people. You don't tell people what they need. You know, doctor not tell you say you have cough and say you have flu. Doctor take tests. Doctor have a conversation with you and say, well, based on what you're talking about, it's not just a cough. You might have had an allergy to so and so and so. Let it
so yes,
be relevant to the
yes.
situation.
So therefore, what we're talking about is not about going back to the drawing board, but is revising and revamping the whole process at the same time. Is that a fair, or going
Because
back to the drawing
going
board?
back to the drawing board means revising the process. Going
Yes,
back to the
yes.
drawing board means that you take into consideration the reform purpose
Mm.
and you go to the people directly through the constitutions and the varying associations, and you do an educational campaign that provides information so that people can make an informative decision, and you take submissions from these associations and entities so that they can be deliberated in public, and their members can say how they feel and what they want to be included. And so you have a consultative process that is not rushed because you want to create a legacy, but one that is done in a timely manner, that's inclusive and visionary, that takes into consideration the diversity economically, ethnically, socially, and culturally to craft a document that will guide Jamaica 60 years from now.
In closing, I was in Jamaica in
In
Otrius.
Ocean. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I went to the Otrius Primary School. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running the figures, the address and details there to contact NIA details there, which is on the website. I went to Otrius Primary School. The teacher took me around. I went to York Castle High School, my former high school, which is York Castle, with the principal, Raymond Treasure. Went to Brownstone Community College. And right there and then, it just hit me. It just dawned on me. These institutions are so prime and so perfect for street laws, or for lawyers, or for technical persons to go down there into these communities and teach on constitutional reform right through the country. If there's that drive right through the country, I just use that as a point. We got it. As someone just said a while ago, we have it, Daniel. We have it. You know, it says, it's weird, in my opinion. You have the best and brightest, and they're leaving. Why not incentivize them to stay and put and grow? Well, the key was the best and the brightest. We've got it at the same
I
at the
agree
same time.
with you. I agree with you on that. But at the same
Yes,
time, you have to find a way to attract those who have left. And you
yes,
talk about the schools. This is perhaps an opportune time for the schools, the students, their leadership. This
yes,
constitution doesn't touch and concern just the old people. This is
yes.
where the young people will have to live with the decisions that we make. And
Just
so
like how we're living with 1962 now.
same way. And so it would be a call out for the prefect associations, the student council bodies, the debating clubs, the key clubs, the young achievement in clubs, all the clubs to get involved and start the revolution. It has to come
Yes,
from the students. It has to come from the young people.
yes. Fight the powers that be. Daniel Archer. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Got Daniel Archer, Principal Director of National Integrity Action Attorney at Law, joining me tonight. Any last word, Daniel? Or we could keep going on. And it's
Let's keep the fire burning. Let's recognize that
yeah,
Jamaica is for all of us. It's not just for those who have been born on the rock, but the peacock, the passport Immigration Citizenship Authority has often sent out memos to tell people, if you're Jamaican by descent, apply for your nationality. It tells you that you have benefits. We have to be
Yeah.
clear on the Jamaica that we want to create for
Yes.
2060. And this is an opportunity for everybody to get involved. Don't yield your power to the politicians. Their own and sole purpose is to stay in power. What's yours?
Wow. And to win an election. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Danielle. And I want to thank you so much. And have a good evening. And
You're welcome.
peace out.
Blessings.
All right. Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you, Danielle. Cheers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, powerful discussion, and try to keep it very succinct and very powerful. I hope it was very informative to persons. I see a lot of discussions were happening. Persons were writing to me on Instagram, TikTok as well, and those also on YouTube right here. We the people of Republic Jamaica, Article 17 of WTPP-CRG speaks to the rights and duties of the Jamaican diaspora. And yes, sir, I'll be bringing you on at some point to have a discussion. Daniel, it sounds like you need to start that movement. Chris John, both my children, young adult professionals and dual, have been turned off from Jamaica by the tone of recent events and feel disengaged. Chris, that's a very good point. I was just saying it the other day to someone that if someone even take up their money and their passports and everything and say they're going to even to the diaspora conference, and when they hear all of this, it would be good to know if persons have actually been turned off by that. And the very interesting thing is that in 2022, when PICA, the Passport Immigration Control, came to the UK, I was very involved in that promotion of that event. And what happened is this: they were encouraging Jamaicans to get their citizenship by ancestry and descent and everything like that. They're encouraging Jamaicans, get your citizenship. So it's like somewhat like a slap in the face at the same time by the political inexperienced so-called servants. I won't say political masters, political servants, because the people, I always say that people need to know that they're actually the boss. The people of Jamaica, you are the boss, and you need to take your rightful place as the boss of the politicians, right? And the boss and the politicians are actually your servants. You know, I was at a conference one time, at a diaspora conference, and I was speaking to someone. Never forget this moment. I was speaking to someone at a booth, and then all of a sudden, the person was looking and getting, like they were getting jittery. And guess what it was? A minister of government was passing by, and it was like Lord God Almighty was passing by. You know, I've been here in the UK for years. I see, walk with different ministers, Prime Minister Boris and all those sort of things. Call him Boris, call him David Cameron or whatever like that. It's no big deal, So therefore, we got to have this really rethink of how we actually see our political servants, not political masters. So I want to thank you so much for joining tonight, and thank for those on Instagram as well. Let me see on Instagram. Thank you so much, guys. And next week we'll see how it goes. Of course, I never know the guests until the last minute. So have a good night and have a great Sunday evening. And may God bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you and give you peace. Thank you.